and welcome to this episode of Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, and today we're going to be talking about road safety, but not necessarily for cars. We're going to focus on bicycles. It's warm weather, and a lot of us are hitting the streets, and we want to make sure we're safe. So with us today is Senior Police Officer Dan Mackey. Welcome.
Welcome.
How long have you been biking, either as a hobby or with the police?
Well, you know, as you reach 16 years old, you usually find a car is more advantageous to getting around. I actually started biking again seriously when I entered the police department and noticed that I wanted to be a bike officer. It helps us in our patrol work. So I've been biking again for about 10 years now.
That's great. And so biking for you is a way to get in crowds and places that you can't get in as easily with the full-size car.
It gives us a lot more approach to policing that the department loves to have.
That's great. Well, I know a lot of people are hitting the roads. I am myself. I like to bike to work if, you know, I can get some combination of not needing a car during the day and having reasonably decent weather. But it's a little scary out there on the roads. What are some tips you have for how to navigate that? Well,
the only thing I can tell you is that, of course, use common sense is the biggest thing. But all bicycles riders, no matter what age, you are required by state law that you are actually a vehicle. You treat yourself as a vehicle, so you are entitled to the roadway. It does require that you stay to the farthest right as you can. Of course, you've got avenues like if you're on a one-way street or something like that, you may be on the left hand, but you stay close or as close to the right side of the roadway as you can. I will say that in the city of Hampton, it is actually not mandatory, but it is if you have a sidewalk available, that we recommend that you do use the sidewalk. That was changed a few years ago.
Wow, I don't think most people know that. I didn't know that. I thought it was actually illegal to ride my bike on the sidewalk.
A lot of bicyclists state, because a few years ago it was state mandated that sidewalks were for pedestrian traffic only. They changed that law in the city of Hampton because there's so many more bicycles and the traffic, of course, is increasing.
Yes, that's for sure.
It just makes it a little bit more safe for the bicyclists. However, when a bicyclist is on a sidewalk, they must give way to pedestrian traffic because they have the right of way.
Okay, something about an audible signal. They have to have a bell or a whistle to warn them they're coming up behind them.
That is correct.
And they have to travel single file, I think.
Yes, by the city code, we're required that you do travel single file. I mean, when you're out in the roadway and you are riding two abreast, it just says that you must become a single file when the faster traffic is moving closer to you.
So if a parent's riding with a kid, you can be side by side there for a little while.
Until you have somebody coming up behind you, and then you must move into single file. Other than that, the only thing I can say is that as for safety for the bicyclists, and motorists don't know this, the motorist, if he does pass a bicyclist, it's his lane, and he has to give him at least 2 feet by state code to pass a bicyclist. So if he can't do that, then he shouldn't pass a bicyclist. He should wait, or that person should wait until it's safe to do so.
They don't, though. I mean,
well, yes.
I ride down Kickotan, and there's 2 lanes each way, and you'd think someone could wait a few seconds. It's never very long until they could get into the other lane and go around, but they seem to be awfully impatient.
And people they may get less impatient as bicyclists increase with the gas costs, of course. Everybody's into health these days, and bicycle numbers are increasing constantly. And the city of Hampton, of course, is being as proactive as possible, creating bike lanes, creating more venues for bicyclists, and so, you know, the city is definitely improving in that condition.
Yeah, I think the community plan that was recently adopted after about a year of public input does encourage, well, for one thing, it's dealing with health and being healthier, but it's also more of a pedestrian, biking, a little bit slower paced community.
Right.
And there are requirements, I think, now when roads are redone that bike paths be added or at least studied.
That may be. I'm not fully aware of that. But
so if there is a bike path, people should use that.
Yes, they are required to.
The sidewalk is allowed. And I think probably for serious bicyclists, sidewalks are a little bit hard in that a lot of times there's a lot of up and downs where the curb cuts are, and it's not always
Sometimes it's not
riding.
safe, and of course you have to take into consideration the safety of the lane and where you're riding. So some of the sidewalks are still kind of bumpy too, or inappropriate to get a bicycle on.
Right, and obviously if you're making a left turn, at some point you have to get back out onto the street and do that. Now, speaking of turns, if I'm considered a vehicle in the lane, I have to give turn signals, right?
That is correct.
You want to refresh for people who haven't had driver's ed in a very, very long time what those signals look like?
They're very simple. There's only 3 that you have to remember. There's a right turn, a left turn, and a stop. And it's all done within, it can be either, it used to be everybody had to do it with their left hand. Now
I thought you did.
It's all,
See, I had driver's ed a very long time ago.
It has changed. You can either use one hand or the other. It does not matter. And it's just a right-hand turn is nothing more than holding your palm straight up in a right angle.
Okay.
And then, of course, a left turn is pointing, I'm turning left, so it's really simple. I'm pointing left. And then, of course, stop. You have your hand down and your palm flat and in a, I guess, a right angle downwards. So that's the 3 simple, basic signals that you have to remember for the roadway. And yes, you are required, just like a car is required to signal intentions, so are you as a bicyclist.
Okay. So how far, how often, how long does this happen? Because it's a little hard to stop while your hand's up.
You just got to it's just like any law. It's within 100 yards of the actual turn or the stop. You have to give your intention. Okay. You don't have to keep giving the signal.
So you give the signal, and then you can put your other hand back on the handlebars. Okay. Now, safety-wise, helmets. What is the law about helmets?
State law requires that children under the age of 14 must have a helmet when they're either riding a bicycle, rollerblading, any type of wheeled object.
Skateboards?
Skateboards also. They must have.
I see a lot without.
14, yes, they must have a helmet and affixed to themselves so that it doesn't. And I'm 50 years old and I ride with my helmet. I know they aren't the most prestigious thing. They don't make you look very well, but it's better for your safety and your health. I've crashed several times and I've worn my helmet every time, and I know that it saved me some serious injury. And you don't want to be that one time that you forget or you think it's okay, because it might be that one time that causes some kind of catastrophe.
Right. Even in your neighborhood, even if it's a very short trip, you never know.
Right.
Are there features to look for on bike helmets or anything you want to highlight about what people should do?
I would just say just to look at, there's plenty of manufacturers out there, and of course we use one particular type, but really there's so many out there. Just something that there's a code inside the helmet that'll tell you whether it's certified or not by the safety agency.
Okay.
And that's all I can tell you to look for. I don't think anybody who sells them out there nowadays that isn't certified. That is correct, because it would be a liability to them.
Okay. Well, that's great. And I know I wear mine all the time, too. It's not good for my hair. It's not a good look. You do feel a little bit dorky, but...
the first time you fall and it saves you, you'll respect it.
I have a friend who's been actually fairly badly injured twice now on his bicycle, and the helmet has made a huge difference for him, because you hit that pavement and you're pretty exposed. So he broke ribs and a few other things, but his brain stayed intact.
And that's a good thing. You can heal.
Yeah, yeah. Are there any other things you want to highlight about road safety for cyclists?
Just a reminder to everyone that, of course, you can't have earphones when you're riding a bicycle. And I see a lot of that in the violations nowadays that we see.
And that's actually the law. You could give them a ticket for that, right?
Yes, that is correct. You can receive a ticket for that if you're using headphones of any type. And it may not be on at all, but if you have them in your ear, then you can't hear what's going on around you. It impairs your hearing. The same with a car. You can't use them in a car. You can't use them on a bicycle. And a lot of folks don't know, especially with today's... with all the iPods and iPhones and everything.
And even a phone, you could be on your Bluetooth. That's or you should not be doing that.
That is correct.
As a bicyclist, you need to hear that car coming up behind you.
Or emergency. I mean, I've actually been in a situation where I was running lights and sirens, and I watched a bicycle on a sidewalk actually roll right out in front of me. Thank God that I did exactly what I'm supposed to do and stopped before and cleared the intersection before I went through it. But she had no idea that I was coming up. And it's just one of those things. I saw her coming, and I knew she couldn't hear me because I could see these big earphones on top of her. I had no idea that I was there. And it's for your safety.
Absolutely.
The other things I remember at night, if you're riding a bicycle at night, you must have a light affixed to the bike. and it must be visible within 500 feet.
You know, they're tiny now. I think mine is an LED, and it's really, really small and lightweight, but it's very, very bright.
That's correct, and that's because of all the technology they've come up with and the LED lights. They are extremely bright. So most times when you purchase one of those lights, that the manufacturer has already deemed that it's well within the limits of what the states require. You do have to have a rear reflector on the bicycle at night when you're operating at night also. And in certain situations, if you're on a roadway that's 35 miles or faster posted speed, you must have a red light illuminated. So
oh, okay.
A lot of people don't know that either.
No, I didn't know that.
And it can be actually affixed to the bicyclist or affixed to the bicycle itself, just as long as it can be seen.
Okay.
And that's a newer regulation to the state.
What about rear view mirrors? I know they come that you can attach them to your helmet or attach them to your handlebars. Are those recommended? Do you use one?
I do not, because it's kind of, with the bicycle and the way we use our bicycles, they get beat around quite a bit, and of course then on the helmets and of trying to fix it to your glasses or anything like that, it's very difficult. So we don't. It depends it's a rider's preference. It's not required by law that you have them. Because you can actually turn, you have very good vision on a bicycle. There's nothing actually impeding your vision while you're riding on a bicycle.
Right. You can always turn and look behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Do you have anything else that you want to add that I keep forgetting?
I would like to say, just remember, if you're on a bicycle and you're on a roadway, you are required by law to follow all the traffic regulations. We see it all the time where people run right through a red light, and you can get a ticket for that, just like a car would get a ticket. And you would have to, if it was a infraction where it could cause a reckless situation, you could actually have to see a judge for it, just like a motorist would have to.
Okay, but let me ask you about this, because I know they changed the law for motorcyclists, and I wasn't sure what to do. But I've been stuck at a red light that is traffic sensitive, and I don't weigh enough to trip that light.
That is correct.
And so you can sit there for, hours. What do you do in that situation?
The law states is once it's cycled once, or I think it's cycled twice, you have the authority to travel through that red light then, as long as it's clear.
Okay.
Just like a motorcycle.
There's a few of those downtown, and I'm just like, wow, what do I do now?
As a bicycle officer, I realize that I'm the same situation. So
okay, so make sure the intersection is clear, and then you can travel through after one cycle.
After the light's cycled, just to make sure that it doesn't trip.
Right, because some of them will eventually, or if a car pulls up next to me, sometimes that does it. But okay, well, thank you, Officer Mackey. I really appreciate it. And thank you for watching this episode of Round Robin. I hope these tips will help you get outside, get some exercise, and do it in a safe way. Thank you.